everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. I want to show you this new card design from the Stamps of Life. And this is the Double Scallop card, and it comes with this die, which makes an A2 size card, and you can see that the edges will be in the scallop. So all around you have the scallop, and it has this score line, so you don't have to do any cutting. You just run this through your die cut machine and it will make the A2 size card for you. It also comes with 2 layering pieces. You have one which is the scallop, which you can just create another or die cut another sheet of paper or pattern paper or solid cardstock and put a layering piece directly on top of that with the same shape. Okay, but you also have this scallop, and this scallop has some little dots going all the way around. So if you wanted to have a solid, this one here is just a solid, and then this one is dotted. So you can take your pick as to which one you would want to have for your top layering piece. It also comes with the thank you and the happy birthday. So it comes, each die comes with the shadow layer, and the letters are all connected. And what's neat about these letters, it's a little bit different than what we've seen before. There's a design on the letters, and the letters have these little squares on them, which is a really nice effect, I think. And the letters are pretty large as well. So you have your letters and you also have your shadow piece. So we have 2 different words for thank and you. You also have a flower. The flower has little dots on it as well. And then we have the happy birthday with the same square pattern as the thank you. So here is an example of what the happy birthday looks like when it is die cut and adhered to the shadow layer. So you can see how large it is. This is just an A2 size card base. So you can see how big it is in relation to an A2 size card. So you can see that it fills up the card pretty well. So it's very nice. A very nice size card. So we're going to go ahead and make a card today. I'm going to use a piece of the Kiwi solid color cardstock, and I am going to die cut with the large die that makes your A2 size card. That's going to be die cut out of the Kiwi, and I am going to go with, I think, well, I'm going to, because I want to use a piece of pattern paper, I'm not going to go with the design of the dots. I'm just going to go with the solid for this, and I am going to die cut this out of the pattern paper. This pattern paper is it's the Spring Basics collection. This actually came with the Sunshine kit, and I believe it's now on sale separately. Spring Basics collection. So I'm going to die cut these 2 pieces first, starting out. When you are die cutting a piece of pattern paper, make sure your die is lined up straight. In this case, I have this gingham print, and I want to make sure that my lines are not crooked. So you always want to make sure your die is lined up perfectly straight if you have a pattern. So here's what my 2 pieces came out looking like out of the die cut machine, and notice that this A2 size card base, it does have the score line, so you can just fold that, and then this piece will just layer right on top. I love these colors together. I think they're perfect for spring. So I also just die cutted the dotted die, this one here, through a solid piece of cardstock, and you can see the fun print that it does put on the edges of the scallop. There's all these little tiny dots going all around. So I suggest that when you're using the dots, go ahead and run it through a couple of different times just to make sure that those dots go all the way through. But that is a really pretty pattern. So you can choose to have the dots, or you can choose to have the solid. And now I'm just debating on what I'm going to use for my front. If I use the pattern on the front, I could always put this on the inside as just another layer to put my sentiment. So it's really up to you what you want to use. I'm gonna make this a thank you card. So I'm gonna use my thank you dies. And I also am gonna use this really pretty flower. So let me go ahead and pull some cardstock and see what colors I'm gonna use for the thank you. So I went ahead and die cut the shadow layer out of the powdered sugar. And I'm going to die cut the words out of the kiwi. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I put some double-sided adhesive on the back of my kiwi cardstock, because once those come out of the die cut machine, those letters, I do not want to try and put adhesive on those letters, because remember, those letters had holes in them, and trying to get the adhesive through those holes I think would be impossible. So I'm going to take my kiwi cardstock and die cut the words thank you out of the double-sided, it's got the double-sided adhesive on the back. So now that that comes out of the die cut machine, I just want to show you what these look like. Now, because it has these holes, you're going to have to use your finger, or even your, if you have one of these poker tools, you're going to have to get those dots out of there. And then once you have all the dots out, then you'll be able to add this to your shadow layer. And because I put the double-sided adhesive on the back of this, it just makes them more sticky, trying to get out. But once you get it all, it's going to look really pretty. Okay, so let's just do this first one, and then I'll go through and get the rest out. Look how pretty that is. Nice and big letters, and all of those little dots, they just add so much detail. So I'm gonna go ahead and die cut this flower, and I'm gonna bring in some of this cantaloupe cardstock, and I am going to make sure I have double-sided adhesive on the back, because this flower die has all these little dots in it, and you just want to make sure that you have the double-sided adhesive, because it will be really hard to put some adhesive on it after it's already die cut. And then the shadow layer, I already die cut out of the powdered sugar, so it's going to have a white background. It's going to go here at the bottom of the card, so I'm going to go ahead and run this through, and I'll be right back. So when that comes out of the die cut machine, most of these little holes are already out of the flower, but if they're not, you will need to poke them out. But before I do that, I'm going to just stick that right back on there. I'm going to ink blend the edges of that in the cantaloupe ink. And I'm going to go ahead and take off the adhesive backing, and I'll just need to make sure that all of these little dots are poked out. And once I have them poked out, I'm just going to put that on my shadow layer. Look how pretty that is. And then we'll put a little epoxy dot right in the center. So I have a kiwi colored epoxy dot, and I'm just gonna pop that right there. Now before I adhere anything, I just want to show you what this would look like if we just did a solid color as the background, so you can see what it looks like with the pattern paper. So now if we just took everything up and then just replace this pattern paper with the solid pixie cardstock, and that's just as pretty too. And you can see the pretty dots that it has on the sides. I'm going to go ahead and start adhering this scallop. I just want to make sure that I add the glue to the edges of each one of these scallops. So before I add my thank you, I am going to add a ribbon. And the reason I'm adding this ribbon first is because once I add it, and this is a pretty thick ribbon, I want to make sure that my words don't go up too high, that they overlap with the ribbon. So that's why I'm adding it first. All right, so I have everything where I want it to go. So now I'm just going to add some glue. All right, so I went ahead and decided I would go ahead and put this on the inside. That way it will just add another piece of decoration in there. And I did another flower, and I'm also going to add that to the inside. So here's my final card. Word thank you is the kiwi and the powdered sugar and the flower, the cantaloupe. And then when you open it up, you can write your message, and there's another pretty little flower there.